What's up, people? I'm back for another video. Hold on. Was gonna do this a little later, but I was like, fuck it, I'll do it now. But we're gonna be talking about that new Bel Air series. Because I've wanted to rant on this for a little bit, but I finished it. Oh my fucking god, it's so bad. Like, I'm not gonna really be going into the story, because the story is basic drama. I'm more gonna be talking about what they do with our beloved characters from that series. Because to me, that is the more criminal thing. I could talk about that, it's your modern bullshit show where, it's nothing but feelings and, politics. Like, literally every white person's evil, black people innocent, shit like that. I could go in and from that angle, but I knew going in it was going to be that. Like, I knew from the jump when they announced it was going to be a drama, like, oh, it's going to probably be some BLM bullshit. But that's not even the biggest problem. They should have never even greenlit the show. There's no point to even being called Bel Air, because all it is just, if you switch some of the names around, it can just exist as some generic show. But it's obvious why they did it, because they wanted to reel those people who grew up with that original series. But what made that original series so fucking good was that, yeah, it was a comedy, but you had those really serious, hard-hitting episodes. Like the episode where Will's dad comes back but then leaves again. Or the episode where Carlton gets shot, or where Carlton accidentally takes speed. Like, you're not going to get that in this show. You're just going to get a shitty version of it. Like, for example, the actor who plays Will, I'll say it, he's not the worst actor in the world, and if he was playing some other character, it could be fine, but he just doesn't have that charisma. What made Will Smith was that he had that charisma every episode. In this show, he's just just depressed, because you gotta always talk about his feelings all the time, and they try to do the thing with his dad like they did in the original show, but the thing was, in the original show, it was built up. It was built up for seasons, honestly. We knew Will, his dad ran out of him, but they only, subtly talked about it. They didn't, go in it wasn't until, I think it was, season 5 when his dad finally showed up. But that was built up. I'll spoil one thing. Like, for example, there's a scene where it's clearly they're inspired by that scene from the episode where Will's, crying about his dad. But the thing is, like I said, it was built up in that original show. In this, it's not built up at all. It's just, we're gonna try this they saw that episode. We're gonna try a crack at it. It pales in comparison, because it was built up for seasons. Just trying to, let's just drop all that in season 1. I don't remember the exact episode number they did it, but it's like, but this show just should never been greenlit. There's no reason. I think the other thing about Fresh Prince, it was a product of its time. It came out in the early to mid 90s, That was that height of Will Smith's career. There's no point. Will Smith essentially made that show. When you try to remake it with a different actor, it was just never gonna work. And I've even said, I don't even want a continuation, where it's Will Smith, but we see him later in life, and maybe he has kids. I don't want that either. I'm like, let Fresh Prince be of its time. And I said this yesterday with the Crow thing. Just let certain things just be a product of their time. Some things, just trying to bring it back to modernize it, just doesn't fucking work. But I'm going to go more into it now. But before I do, tomorrow I'll be reviewing Tremors. It's such an awesome movie. It's it's a B movie, but it's a fun B movie. And at least the first one I genuinely think is a good movie. I haven't really watched any of the sequels, so we'll be reviewing those, but I'll be doing that tomorrow. But here we go. So, so essentially, the show, kicks off a very similar way. Like we see Will get, but we do get a little bit of him in Philadelphia, which I guess that's the only part I not necessarily like, but it was kind of cool that we do get to see a little bit of his life in Philadelphia. but let's go into the characters. To me, like I said, the biggest sin this show really commits is what they do to the characters. We'll start off with like a simple character, Jeffrey, the butler. In this show, they even explicitly said they wanted to get rid of the British accent, but what made Jeffrey was the accent. Like he was a legit, not just he was a legit butler, but he was a funny character. When I because like the last month lately, I've been rewatching Fresh Prince. Sorry, rewatching Fresh Prince, and just Jeffrey's like zingers are like some of the best parts of the show, and then Jeffrey in this show is just boring. He's just kind of there. He doesn't even really feel like a butler. He's just, and you're gonna see me saying this a lot with certain characters. They're just there. They're just there to fill a screen. Because to me, Jeffrey doesn't do anything of note. Whereas in the original show, yeah, he was the butler, but there was the episode where we get the reveal he has a son. We get to learn of like what he did before he became a butler. You don't get any of that in this show, and the fact that they're trying to greenlit a season 2 or they're trying to do a season 2 is just laughable. I don't know how they were even. And I hate this. I mean, unfortunately, there's people who are defending the show. And that part bothers me because I'm like, y'all, you watched the original show. Why are you defending this? When you take a character like Jeffrey, who in the original show, every character has a use. Half the characters in this you don't need. The only characters that really matter, honestly, are Will and Carlton to a degree. And oh my God, I'm going to go into what they do to Carlton because fuck, it's bad. And then maybe Uncle Phil. Those are like the only real 3 characters that actually matter. Everyone else is just kind of there to fill a screen. When the original series, every character, even down to like Jeffrey, or Jazz, and I'm not going to really talk about Jazz in this show because he's actually one of the few things I don't really hate in this show. He's not Jazzy Jeff, but he's all right for this show. But yeah, so Jeffrey, they just made kind of boring and just fills secondhand. That's kind of it. Like, he doesn't have any character to him, nothing to him. There's no interest with him. So I guess that's Jeffrey. We'll start with Vivian. Vivian Banks, who, yeah, in the original show, whatever I think of the actress herself, Janet Hubert, I think the original actress, she played that role really well. And even the actress who filled in for her in season 4 was fine, But to a degree, Vivian in this show is just kind of, she's just there. And there's, I can't even think of a noteworthy scene with her. There's, I think the one scene where she's yelling at Uncle Phil, where they kind of have a little bickering thing. But aside from that, she doesn't do anything of note in the show. She's just rich wife. And, I don't know. Anyway, it's just that she's not interesting. I don't blame the actress fully because I think it's the directing of a lot of it, man. Just she doesn't do anything of note. I can't even think of anything. And yeah, when I was watching the series, I was often paying attention to other shit. I just kind of had it in the background. I wasn't really paying attention, but still, I at least can. When I get to certain characters, I can think of some, but with her, I just can't even think of anything she really did of note. She's just there. So I guess that's least offensive in that sense. Uncle Phil. God, what they do with Uncle Phil. I've said this to a couple people. They really make him like an asshole. He's trying to campaign for to be like a politician, which I understand in the original series he eventually becomes a judge, but he doesn't start off that way. He starts off as just a family man, very rich, but a family man. I think they should have gone that route. Granted, they should have never even fucking done this show, but yeah. Like, and then the moments they do try to have him be wise with Will and Carlton, I don't believe it. It's not believable. I don't know if it's the actor's fault. I don't know if it's the script he's given. But every scene he tries to be, like, serious and give him, that lecture, like, that wisdom, like the actual Uncle Phil would. But James Avery played it with, I think the other thing is he played it with pizzazz, and I think that's going to be a theme that's going to be a lot in this when I talk about a lot of these newer characters, at least these versions of his characters, is they're so soulless. Every character in the original show had a soul, down to, like I said, Jeffrey, Jazz, and Viv. And Viv in this has no soul. She's just there. That's why I was just saying, like, just switch the names, because Uncle James Avery played the character with pizzazz in every scene he was in my opinion, especially since rewatching it. He carries the scene. I don't get that with this Uncle Phil. No wisdom, no nothing. It's not. And then, even as a family man, they don't really make it believable. I don't know. And it could be partially the actor they got. I just don't buy him as a family man type actor. I just don't. I just the way I don't know. But fundamentally, Uncle Phil is like the best part of the show. Oh, like specifically, the scene where he's talking to Will about his father. They try to basically do the scene from season 5. It just doesn't work because Uncle Phil in that episode, when he confronted his father, like, you felt his words. And I think that's the thing I'm going to be saying a lot with Uncle Phil specifically. You felt his words when he's giving wisdom and all that and talking to Will. You don't get that in this. Every scene he's in, when they try to give him, like, the wisdom thing, I don't buy it, and it just isn't. It doesn't ring true to me. So that's Uncle Phil. Hillary, she's like another least offensive. They made her a vlogger essentially, and they kind of like took a little bits, like, because in the original show she was like not a cook, but she had a weather show before that, but she did like but the difference is Hillary in the original show, same thing, had pizzazz, Yeah, she was an airhead, but she even, like, had her own story. Like, the episode where she was about to get engaged and her fiance ends up dying, and then she has to cope with that. You don't get that with this Hillary. This Hillary in this is just, we're gonna make Hillary, but like a YouTuber. Essentially, that's what she is in the show. She's a vlogger. And that's the theme of this is straight up no soul. She doesn't play with any soul at all. She just feels like generic drama queen. Same thing. Hillary in the original series wasn't that. And the crazy thing is they took a character like Hillary, who essentially is, yeah, she's just your, not Hollywood, but like rich airhead, but then they gave her some character throughout the seasons. You don't getting that with this. And people can make the argument, guys, there might be multiple seasons. You got to let it grow. I'm like, no. Even good shows can give you at least a little bit of character in season 1. I watched Fresh Prince season 1. You had so much character with all those characters even in that first season. Uncle Phil in that first fucking episode was the Uncle Phil we already knew. We all knew. Even by that first episode. Same with all those other characters. In this, they're just shells. They're just clearly just taking the name because they want to get an audience. They think they'll get an audience if, we're just going to call it Fresh Prince, when you didn't have to call it that. This could easily be Black Drama number 3000. Switch out the names and all that shit. So frustrating. And then Ashley, and I'm like, I have to preface it like this, but yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with gay or bisexual or none of that. But they made Hillary bi in the show, which I think they just think that's the way to do characters now. Oh, let's just make her bi and fight for LGBT issues. When why? And then like she's essentially an activist. That's all Hillary, not Hillary, her too to an extent, but Ashley is an activist. When why? Ashley in the original show was essentially your normal teenage girl. Yeah, she went to a rich school, but essentially she's just your normal teenage girl. You know, that was going through normal teenage girl stuff. Why can't you just do that? Why do you have to write her like some activist? Most fucking teenagers are not activists. At least normal ones anyway. Like, and it just shows that because of today's climate, you gotta, oh, we're gonna make her gay because that will make her interesting. No, it didn't. If anything, you made her less interesting. You just pulled a super predictable move. So, where else does she go now? Oh, she's bi. Okay. Where else do you go with that? Oh, we're gonna see her get in relationships later seasons? Yeah, no. No interest. And the biggest crime of the show is what they did to Carlton. Oh my god. What they do to Carlton really pisses me off because Carlton in the original show is like one of my favorite characters. Like the not just the growth, but like, because yeah, he starts off as like, yeah, you think he's this snobby rich kid, but you see his growth with Will and his family. And then my favorite Carlton episode is when he stands up to that fraternity who's like, oh, you're a sellout. When he stood up for himself and showed like, to be black, I don't have to, be down and all this shit. But clearly the writer of this show hates Carlton. Like, they have some hate boner for Carlton, because when I... wait a second. What would they do to Carlton? Carlton has this friend of the show. I mentioned this show clearly doesn't like white people. They have a friend of Carlton's name. I think his name is Connor. Who's this like friend of his who basically the premise with Will is what they're gonna do is he sets up Will. He plants drugs in his bag so Will gets suspended. And they have to do that whole thing. And literally Will's rivalry with this kid started because I guess he was singing along to a rap song and he said, nigga. Really? Like, like, the original show, yeah, they made jokes about white people, but they made jokes about everyone back then. This show clearly just doesn't like white people. Like, clearly. Like, I could tell. And going back to Carlton, they make him the token Uncle Tom. Essentially, that is what he is in the show. He's an antagonist to Will. He embarrasses Will publicly. He's trying to constantly hit on Will's girl, Lisa, throughout the show. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, Will and Carlton would always kind of banter and joke back and forth with each other, but you always knew they had that fucking love for each other. But no, let's just make him a fucking asshole. Because I think the writer really does think Carlton's an Uncle Tom. I really think that's how they feel about the character. So they just, let's make that. Let's make him the antagonist of the show. Side with his friend, his racist friend, because he sang a song, okay? It's so bad, man. Carlton and Will, at the end of the day, they always had that love for each other. Yeah, even in the original series, yeah, the first episode, yeah, did he not fully, embrace Will? But even that season, he starts to. Because at the end of the day, it's family. And then another big crime the show commits. Is Carlton a drug addict. He's like addicted to Xanax. It's like they saw the episode where he took speed, which was accidental, by the way. He just thought they were like some kind of different pills, and he ends up taking them accidentally. But let's make him a Xanax addict because reasons. That doesn't even sound right on paper. If I were if there was like a storyline, right, where anyone in the show Fresh Prince becomes a drug addict, I hate to say it, it would be Will. He'd be the only character I would buy. I don't buy Carlton being into Xanax. Why? Like, it's so bad because Carlton is a character. He's like, yeah, on paper, he's your kind of he's like the goofy sidekick to Will, but he actually is a really well done character. That episode where he stood up to that black fraternity, you're not going to get that in this show because I bet you the writer, like I'm going to keep mentioning, probably thinks like those guys did. He thinks Carlton's an Uncle Tom, probably. That, because, Carlton, made jokes about liberals and, and stuff like that. He made jokes about, being a Republican and stuff like. I think that is why they don't like the character, because why would you change to make him an antagonist, constantly hitting on Will's girl? Yeah, there was like an episode where he takes a girl from Will, but that was when they broke up, and in the end of the day, he made up for that. But in this show, he's like constantly hitting on Lisa. Like, it's like, bro, like, really? Nah, man. You don't do Carlton like that. I don't think that whoever wrote the show understands the original series at all. Because, one, the show wouldn't have even been a thing if they understood it. Because the original show, being a comedy, is what makes those drama episodes much more hard-hitting. When you just make it all a drama, you're just another drama. At the end of the day, there's been a million fucking dramas, but you don't get a million shows that are actually comedies, but they can make dramatic episodes. You don't get a lot of those, at least nowadays. So, unfortunately, when you just make it a drama, your show is just another drama that is, that just blends in with other dramas. And I think greenlighting this whole show was a bad idea, but taking these characters who are awesome was probably one of the best examples of like a family in a sitcom, and you ruin them, especially Carlton. Like Carlton thing's unforgivable to me. When you make him the token Uncle Tom, that is what you're basically telling me what you think of the character. So, but yeah, I just had to go in on this show. I don't recommend watching it. It's not even like a good watch. It's boring. The actor who plays Will, and I think he's probably the least offensive actor of that core group, but he's still not good. This show should never have existed. Just watch the original series. And fuck Will Smith. Well, not just for the whole slap thing either. Just fuck him for even greenlighting this damn show. So, just wanted to get that off my system. Tomorrow, I will be reviewing Tremors, so that should be fun. It's been a little bit, I think like 6 or 7 years since I watched the first one, but it is an awesome movie. It's a fun, movie about... I'm a big fan of killer animal movies. I've always been. Jaws, Lake Placid, stuff like that. I've always been kind of a fan of when animals just kill people. So, a movie about killer worms, and the effects for the time I remember being really good. So, we'll be reviewing that one tomorrow. I'll be doing another Generation Hope video tomorrow, so I'll be doing 2 videos tomorrow. But other than that, don't watch fucking Bel Air. But cheers one more time and peace out. Yeah. Fuck Warner Brothers. Fuck Disney. Fuck LeBron. Fuck Seth Rogen. Fuck Colin Kaepernick. Fuck Kevin Smith. And fuck the Biden administration. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.